Welcome to Born on the Bayou Sports, a Houston sports show made for Houstonians by Houstonians. Join Tim Costello and Scott Barzilla every week as they break down the latest in Houston Astros, Rockets, and Texans news. Tim's a former minor league broadcaster, and Scott has written 2 books on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yeah, if Javier could get it figured out, it would make things a lot easier because he was that guy everybody was counting on this year to be a Cy Young candidate, take that big step forward and help anchor this rotation with Fromber.
Since he's come to Houston, you can look at the development of guys like Carlos Correa defensively, Jeremy Pena defensively. I mean, you can Alex Bregman's, certainly I think a better than average third baseman.
And now you're putting teams in 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9. Now here comes Will Anderson. Pin back your ears, let's go. So if you're Bayou born and bred, or just like spending time in the H, sit down, relax, and stay Houston strong. Welcome, all my friends, to the podcast that's got a new background. Tim's been getting creative. Born on the Bayou Sports. Tim Costello, Scott Barzilla coming to you here on a beautiful, a little bit chilly Wednesday night.
All right, Tim. So 2 burning questions. Number 1, what is your favorite spread for Super Sunday? And what was your favorite commercial offering from the telecast?
Great minds were thinking alike, Scott, because I was going to pose for sure the commercial question to you, but I was going to phrase my food question a little differently. But I'll answer yours first. I love doing boneless wings. I've got some pretty good boneless wing recipes I do at home. I've got the Uni pizza oven, so anytime I can put pizza out there, I'm happy to do that. And then I also have been making my own party subs lately. So I did that as well. My wife makes a fantastic charcuterie board, so I let her do that. And then I do the party sub, some chips and queso this year, boneless wings, whatever you're feeling like. But let me ask you this, Scott, before I answer your commercial question, which I will. Do you like to theme your Super Bowl spread for the teams involved, like the cities, maybe doing Philly cheesesteaks for, the Eagles, or, some Kansas City ribs for the Chiefs? Or are you kind of just like, these are my Super Bowl foods, I'm putting them out?
We just did some experimentation this time around. So I don't know if you're a big fan of Buffalo Wild Wings.
I'm not.
We'd go every now and then. We get wings 3 different ways, get some potato wedges. So we're like, we can do that. So we did it. Cost us about $20 for the whole round. But the other thing I did, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Hot Ones.
I have. It would not go very well for your co-host.
No, it wouldn't go well for me either. But Janet is more adventurous than I am. And so she actually got, you remember, the one that's called the Bomb?
Yes.
She has a coworker that had a little vial of that lent it to her. And then I bought her the set World Market. I don't know if y'all have those up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
We have one next to the PGA Tour Superstore, actually.
And so they actually sell a set where you can get 5 of them. And so she made herself 6 wings with each of those 6 sauces. And actually, did a Hot Ones challenge. She was doing really good until she got to the Bomb. The Bomb was the second hottest, because they include the last dab in that box that they give you. And she had to walk around a bit. She finished her beer and got some milk. I mean, it was rough there for a few minutes, but I think, she came out okay, and, didn't have any stomach pyrotechnics, if you know what I mean, the next day. So it worked out well.
The last time I accidentally ate a jalapeno, it was a fried jalapeno on top of a burger. Like, my buddy and I just split some food. He cut his burger in half. I gave him half of my food. I bite into it. It had a jalapeno on it. It was at TJ Fridays. It was 10 years ago. I had to ask the waitress to bring me a scoop of vanilla ice cream. I stuck my tongue in it and had my lips rub it. it was awful, man. Like, I cannot do spice. I will physically be in pain, and it's just not my jam.
And actually whipped together some teriyaki sauce on the fly that actually turned out pretty well for those wings. So she and I were, definitely not going through the hot ones challenge.
When I make wings, I make honey barbecue and I make garlic parm are the ones that we eat here in my family. My wife likes the medium sauce from Buffalo Wild Wings, and you can buy their sauces in the store, so I'll toss those. But for anyone who has a Sam's membership, you buy your chicken chunks, you air fry them, you toss them in your sauce, and you got some fantastic boneless wings, Scott.
Yeah. So now switching it to the commercial, I have a feeling you and I are going to land on, a couple of ones that we would probably agree on.
Pickleball.
Pickleball was pretty good, although that one's come out before the Super Bowl. So I don't know if I count that as a quote unquote. I mean, it was on during the Super Bowl, but it's not a Super Bowl ad. My personal favorites were the Eugene Levy eyebrows.
That was good. The eyebrows were good. The mustache one, where
the Pringles mustache one was pretty damn good.
I thought McConaughey's History of Football was pretty good.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
You had to love all the border control commercials. Those were, oh my God, love seeing the representation for our border control about 19 fucking times.
Yeah.
No kidding. I also love seeing a commercial from Jesus that cost $8 million for 30 seconds, because that's definitely a good representation of WWJD.
Is it 8 million? I thought it was north of $10 million these days for a 30-second spot.
According to the company-wide meeting we had on Wednesday last week, a 30-second spot was $8 million. And we had reporters on scene when they filmed the pickleball one. And that was the first time Willem Dafoe and Catherine O'Hara had ever met in real life. So that was kind of all their years in Hollywood. Everybody was shocked that they'd never met before.
Hey, and he gets us.
Yeah. He does, Scott. Worst commercial, Kanye West. With a commercial for his site that's selling a fucking Nazi shirt. Congrats, Kanye. Worst commercial.
Well, and so of course the other entertainment portion of the proceedings is always the halftime show. I don't know if you watch the pageantry before the game. I usually
to a point, right? Like 30, 40 minutes, right? But I'm not sitting there for hours. Yeah. I watch the Puppy Bowl.
So I did turn it on in time to see the opening number from New Orleans, Lady Gaga.
I watched that. Her lack of eyebrows there freaked me out a little bit. I don't understand why she painted over her eyebrows.
But she is I don't know if you knew, she went to Juilliard.
I did. I mean, she's unbelievably talented. She's a beautiful woman. She was fantastic. I don't understand.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, but
the lift every voice and sing. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I've
so well done. So well done.
Get Harry Connick Jr. in there, so that was kind of good, in the Superdome. But
bad that I know him from Will and Grace. That's how I became aware of Harry Connick Jr.
Well, you have to understand, Janet went to Tulane, so she knows. I mean, Harry Connick Sr. was the district attorney in Tulane. And in New Orleans.
Did you know multiple Super Bowls were played at Tulane's football stadium?
Yeah, I did actually.
The first two New Orleans. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, we've been to the new one. They actually built a new one.
It's crazy how little importance we used to put on that game.
Well, what's cool is they built a new stadium for Tulane. I think it seats maybe 30 to 40,000. That's right there on campus. And so it's actually, they've done a good job with it. I mean, it's obviously not going to get them into a major conference, but, for where they're at, it's a pretty good stadium they got there.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just crazy to think that,
they play one in Rice Stadium, for crying out loud.
Yeah, I mean, that's my point. Is at some point they were fine with college stadiums and all this stuff, and we're literally being forced as an NFL franchise to get a new stadium if we want to host a Super Bowl now.
Yeah, no kidding. In New Orleans, I mean, the Superdome is not exactly top notch, I'll just say.
I'd
I don't
agree.
know. I don't know if you've ever been to a game in the Superdome or any kind of event. We went to a Tulane TCU game in there. It's not terrible, but it's not great.
Yeah, I'd agree with that statement. It's older than NRG at this point, like, but probably has a nicer screen, whatever it is. But let's talk about the Super Bowl, right? Let's talk about the actual game, because it was exactly what we all wanted, right? Like, we wanted to see Patrick Mahomes not get the calls. And I think, to me, this was a game where if he had gotten some calls along the way, it's probably a lot closer of a game, but they kind of pocketed the flag and said, okay, let it play. And this is what you got with a team that just doesn't quite have as great of weapons that they used to have.
Yeah,
And a bad offensive line.
Well, and you saw that, that one bad, offensive pass interference call in the first quarter. And outside of that, the Eagles really got the benefit of the doubt most of the evening. Our former very own DeAndre Hopkins gets on the scoreboard, has a Super Bowl touchdown that he can, forever talk about, even though the game was over by that point. Here's a funny thing I ran in my article today. So the Texans spent a total, if you talk their top 6 offensive linemen, $75 million in cap hit for 2024. What do you think the Eagles' cap hit was for their top 6 linemen?
Like 45.
You're actually pretty damn close. 48 million.
Because they draft them well. They've got young guys there. Jason Kelsey's money is off the books now. So, like, you've got a young center. But they churn these motherfuckers out, dude. And this is why 2 weeks ago I was saying I want to interview the Eagles offensive line coach for our offensive coordinator position, because their offensive line has been good since Donovan fucking McNabb was there.
Yeah, and not only that, but really, Barkley, I don't know, Barkley by his standards didn't have a good game, but I mean, they gave him the ball 25 times. So, and I think their philosophy was he's going to break it once. He never did.
But he had a big catch or two, though. Like,
yeah,
he made his impact.
Yeah, the Chiefs had to respect him. And so that's what enabled Jalen Hurts to go off. Of course, they got 2 really good wide receivers and a tight end. That's just a roster that is just put together better than any roster in football, I think, right now.
No, it's absolutely a fantastic roster. I would never argue with you on that. And because of how young a lot of their defensive talent is, and some offensive talent as well, they've been able to spend in other areas. But the differences from them and the Texans going into the season, at least, wasn't crazy, except the offensive line play. Because I think the Chiefs tried to shut down the run and make CJ one-dimensional, which is exactly what they did to Jalen Hurts. The difference was when they went one-dimensional, Jalen Hurts stayed fucking clean and hit some great pass plays, while CJ Stroud got lit the fuck up when you played that Kansas City Chiefs defense. And so it just shows again and again, I think we have the guy, but look at what a good to great offensive line can do for you. Because I think a lot of people talked about that Jalen Hurts wasn't that great of a thrower, was more of a game manager, blah, 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 blah. Well, that guy just went out and won Super Bowl MVP and lit that fucking defense up and ran for a shit ton of yards, threw several touchdowns. He played a fantastic game because he had the time to do so. There was I was sitting there counting. It was like 6 seconds to throw at one point.
Yeah, and I think the running is really the big key, and we didn't really see that from Stroud until the last couple of games. So the Chargers game and the Chiefs game is the first time all year we've seen him use his legs, really. Whereas Hurts, I mean, he leg presses twice his body weight. I mean, it's just insane, the strength that he has with his legs. But I think the other key is that 2 healthy, good wide receivers.
Yeah.
So with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, whereas, the Texans had 3 guys at the start of the season, finished the year with 1.
No, that's definitely a big part of it, right? Is you have to respect those 2 fantastic wide receivers. You have to respect Goddard. You have to respect Barkley out of the backfield. And then Dotson ends up catching the first touchdown of the game, too, a young wide receiver that no one really talks about. So their core is fantastic. But I want to talk a little bit more about the running aspect that you mentioned, because I think CJ ran more last year. Then you put all these weapons around him. And I feel like he thought he had so many mouths to feed. He's got to give them those touchdowns, those yards, right? Because I remember early on the season, specifically one play sticks out in my mind where, like, if CJ just holds on the ball and runs it, he's got a touchdown. But it said he, like, tries to flatten out after buying time and throw to Tank Dell. Tank can't get the legs down. And then we end up walking away with 3, right? And it's just, I felt like he had to try and feed all these different mouths instead of just score the fucking ball. Right? Like, everyone will be happy if we get a touchdown. That's the Eagles mentality. Does Saquon get pissed when he gets brought down to 1 yard line and they brotherly shove Jalen Hurts into the end zone? No, he celebrates because his team scored a touchdown. That's the mentality, right? It's all for one and one for all. And until you can get that mindset of my receivers won't mind if I run this one in myself, you're not going to be an aggressive runner the way that Jalen Hurts is.
I think you're in good shape there. I think there is one turd in the punch bowl in Philadelphia. His name is A.J. Brown. I think you've kind of heard him complain about lack of touches to the point where there's friction in between him and Hurts. In fact, I don't know if you saw that he was pissed off, right before he scored his touchdown. I don't know if you saw that on, Super Bowl Sunday, which
I didn't.
At that point in the game, you're like, dude, you're ahead. Shut the fuck up. But then he gets his touchdown. Everybody's happy. All's forgiven. But if there is a turd in the punch bowl that's going to ruin things in Philadelphia, it's going to be A.J. Brown. Whereas I think in Houston, with the way Nico Collins is, you don't have any turds in the punch bowl right now. So you can avoid that depending on which one of these, free agent / trade targets you want to look at for your second wide receiver.
Speaking of which, you mentioned a guy who caught a Super Bowl touchdown pass as well as a 2-point conversion in that Super Bowl, has a long history here, probably could be available for less of a cap hit than Stephon Diggs. Would you consider bringing Hopkins back to Houston at this point to be a number 2 or even number 3 wide receiver?
Yes, but not as a number 2. I don't know if you saw what he was going as an over-under for receiving yards for the Super Bowl. It's 12.5. I don't think I think he's probably lost a step, at least even since joining the Titans last year. I think he's lost a step. I think he is. I don't know. Do you remember what Bill O'Brien famously told Andre Johnson right before they got rid of him?
I don't know.
So Johnson was coming off of like an 80 catch, 1,100 yard season. And Bill O'Brien told him, well, you're going to be a 30 to 40 catch guy here. And Johnson's like, what the hell? I've got like 10 seasons in a row of, 80 to 100 catches and 1,200 yards. What the hell are you talking about? And then that's when he went to the Colts and was effectively nothing. I think Hopkins, if he wants to continue to play, is going to be that 30 catch kind of guy. So you're going to need somebody else to be that number 2. Now, if you tell me I could get Diggs and Hopkins, sign me up. I'm good with that.
I'm a little worried about Diggs only because I've read some articles out there that his cap hit is going to be crazy if we bring him back next year because of the way that we cut his contract and everything like that. I'm not sure how they make that work. I like the idea of Hopkins as your 3. Really utilize him specifically on third downs, right? We still need that great possession receiver because I think you and I would both agree Hopkins was never a burner, right? Like what made him great was his catch radius. And while he did drop a ball or 2 in the Super Bowl, He's still a guy with fantastic hands. And on 3rd and 6, I don't know if there's many people in the league I would trust on a slant route much more than Hopkins to at least make the catch.
Okay, I'll scrapping taking Diggs away. There are now 3 wide receivers who are available via trade. And see if you want to rank order these guys. So we talked about Cooper Kupp. I mean, he's still there. But now we hear Deebo Samuel might be available. And now that the Jets are moving on from Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams might also be available. So of those 3, like who as a number 2 wide receiver, who would you most likely target?
I have caveat-based questions first before I answer, right? I'd want to know with Deebo, are you willing to line up in the backfield and take 5 or 10 carries? Are you wanting to line up specifically as a receiver and run routes? Because if that's the case, I don't want him. Because I think he needs those extra touches to just get going, right? Like if he doesn't get the ball enough early in a game, he just doesn't have that momentum. I watched a lot of Niners football this year, in many years in a row because my wife is a Niners fan, and Debo needs those end arounds. He needs those handoffs just to get the fucking competitive juices flowing. And when he doesn't do that anymore, I just don't think he's the same player. I don't want – who was the third option again? I'm sorry, who was the
So you got Cooper Kupp and then
Davante Adams. Yeah, I don't
Davante Adams.
– his cap hit's fucking high as shit. And so is Cooper Kupp. Like, those guys all have huge cap hits, man, and we're not in a space to do that.
I know the Rams have talked about eating some of that. So I don't
Kupp's
know
honestly
how much.
the one I prefer the most just because I think he's got a bit left of the tank. I don't think anything's wrong with Davante Adams. I don't think we have $32 million to go pay another receiver when you've got 7 pretty highly paid linemen that all fucking suck.
Can we take a moment, just a moment, to kind of introduce the laugh tracks on the Jets? So the Jets sit there, they blow up their roster to give Aaron Rodgers everything he wants, including Davante Adams. You know what would be hilarious? They're now going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. Could you imagine Aaron Rodgers going to the Raiders?
I think he goes full Brett Favre and goes to the Minnesota Vikings.
I don't know if the Vikings want him, to tell you the truth, but imagine him going to the Raiders where the Raiders are like, motherfucker, we just traded Davante Adams. Dude,
Bring him back. Bring him back. Trade for him again.
I mean, oh, I don't know that they would do that either. You know which team is actually the number 1 betting odds on getting Rodgers?
Cleveland?
Steelers.
Mm,
Could you see him and Tomlin working?
no.
No, I couldn't either. I don't know, but
I could see him in Cleveland. They're in quarterback hell. They've still got money tied up to Watson. Where else is he going to go?
I could see it. I think out of those 3, I think, with our Nick Caley, our new offensive coordinator, who we neglected to mention that story last week. So obviously he's coming from the Rams. Cooper Kupp is obviously a Ram. So of those 3 wide receivers, I would think Kupp would be the most ready to play in his offense. And he would be a slot kind of guy, which, kind of fits really well with what Nico brings, where Nico's more of that down the field kind of threat. So if the Rams were willing to take on, let's say, $10 million a year, would you make that trade?
Probably. I mean, it depends what the trade is, right? Like, I'm not giving up a first-round pick for this guy, but realistically, they probably want a 5th or 6th. It's more about taking the cap money off of their plate.
Would you give him a 4?
Yeah.
I mean, if they were willing to take on that kind of money, you'd probably have to chip in a little higher draft pick. And I like Davante Adams. My problem with Davante Adams still thinks of himself as the number 1 receiver, which
he is still a number 1 receiver. He went to Las Vegas and had dog shit quarterbacks and still put up numbers, and he put up decent numbers with Aaron Rodgers. But again, that whole team's a joke.
although Wilson was probably the number one receiver. But I don't know. Would he acquiesce to playing second fiddle to Nico Collins? Debo's already been in an offense where I don't know who the number one receiver of that team
I don't
was.
think there is a number one receiver
Yeah.
in San Francisco. It's just whoever has the best matchup that week.
And so I think he would be more ego-wise if he's willing to do those 5 carries, like you said. He might be, good in line. He's the youngest of the group. He's only 29, which in wide receiver years is probably 35.
Yeah, and again, because of all the carries early on in his career, he's definitely had a little bit more wear and tear maybe than your average top receiver, right? Like he's had 40, 50 carries a year for 3 years, 4 years. They ran him between the fucking tackles. So yeah, like a little bit more wear and tear. But again, like if he's willing to play that role, I want that guy because we don't really have a good backup running back, right? Like we've got some guys, but outside of Mixon, there's no shakeup. There's nothing. You got Mixon, and then you got fucking dudes. Like there's nothing. So like if you want a good change of pace, not a bad idea. What's it going to take to get him, and how much money are we expected to cover? And again, like we've got terrible guard play, absolutely terrible guard play, not good center play. Right tackle could be better. So literally 4 of your 5 offensive spots on the line are not good. And as you mentioned, that line accounts for $75 fucking million. Shaq Mason is dead weight. Shaq Mason is awful. You've used rookie draft picks and second round players on the rest of the line, not good. So you've got committed money. Titus Howard got paid. He's average. He's an okay right tackle. He's not good anywhere else. So like again, you've got a shit ton of money tied up. Like you got to find a way to cut yourself loose off of that shit.
Yeah, I would almost, I don't know. Obviously, this wouldn't be for Debo Samuel, but maybe having one of those old-fashioned trades where you sit there and say, "We'll give you Laramie Tunsil, and you give us your wide receiver."
Why would you give up the only good fucking left? Like, why? That's the only good lineman you have.
Well, but I think they want to. I think they want somebody who's going to be more of a what was the term D'Amico uses? A swarm guy. He may not be a swarm guy.
I mean, that's fine if you get a better replacement. But as like the guy who got his ass lit up all year, and then you trade the only guy who did not let that shit happen, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, 4 of these 5 guys got my ass beat the fuck up last year. 1 didn't, and you kept those 4 and traded the one who kept me safe. What the fuck are you doing?
Well, that would be like, obviously you couldn't just make that one trade and say we're good. I mean, you would have to go out and get, I would say, at least there. Oh, there's a bunch of interior guys.
Interior, not X. What left tackle is out there that's going to keep his blind side safe?
Well, what you would probably you're counting on doing is Blake Fisher being a starting tackle.
I'm not accepting that. Like, unless you were in a position to go draft a guy like Joe Alt, like the Chargers did, I don't want that shit, right? Like, unless, like, I've sent you some video or some stuff of, like, guys we can get in the second, third round. They're like D2 or D3 guys that killed it at senior day. And those D3 schools have a history of putting linemen into the NFL who then get paid in their second contract, which means they were good. I'd rather do that because I have zero desire to give up the one fucking good offensive lineman that we have to go rebuild the interior offensive line. Draft better. Go talk to the Eagles and figure out why they can churn offensive linemen in the system and have a fantastic offensive line for 25 years because they've got something going there. Their draft process shows them something. Lane Johnson, people thought he was going to be a bust, and the guy's just got his second fucking Super Bowl ring. Jason Kelce was a 4th round pick who's now going to go into the Hall of Fame. The average size, like the shortest guy in their line is like 6'3". The average size on that line is like 6'6".
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, I'm fairly, I don't know if I'm over the moon about Nick Caley, but given what we had, options that we had once Chip Kelly was off the board, But here's what kills me, right? What was the weakness of this team last year?
Offensive line.
Why in the fuck did you hire the assistant offensive line coach to be the offensive line coach? Why would you hire anybody near that building? And they didn't even interview anybody. They just went like, oh, well, this guy and this guy. People seem to like him. The only thing I've been able to figure out is Nick Caserio, John Carroll University. Nick Caley, John Carroll University. Your new offensive line coach. No, not the offensive line coach. I think your new quarterbacks coach, John Carroll University. Is John Carroll University a football powerhouse, Tim?
No. Never even heard of it.
Well, so why is the Alumni Association meeting going to happen in NRG next year?
Must have been a fun poker game in the dorm rooms or something. I don't know, man. They were probably sitting there talking about, man, one day we're all going to work for the same NFL team, and Caserio made it happen. But let's switch from one GM to another. Astros are pretty close to heading to spring training, and Dana Brown was asked, "Hey, are you done tinkering? Are you making more moves?" And he's being pretty coy, saying, maybe he'll add a pitcher, maybe he'll add an outfield bat. They signed Luis Guillermo to a minor league deal. They said we'll see Altuve play some left field early on spring training to see how it goes. What are you taking away from the non-answer answers from Dana Brown at this point?
Actually, I heard something on the radio. I heard something on 97.5 today, or one of them said that the collective bargaining agreement actually forbids a team from saying they're out on any free agent. You cannot apparently make an announcement that says we're out. So if anybody's wondering,
there's 32 mystery teams out there.
Well, 30. Yeah, there's only 30 in Major League Baseball. But, obviously they're not going to come out and say, we're really interested in this guy. But they can't come out and say, we're not interested in this guy. This guy sucks. They can't say that. I don't know. If it were me, you've got about $4 million left. I'm like a bad shopping cart that goes to the right no matter which way you're facing. I'm going to get more offense, and I'm just going to keep loading up on offense. That's what I'm going to do. I'd go out and get another outfielder. That's what I would do. However, you could really talk me into getting a fungible 5th, 6th starter type just to help you get through April. You could talk me into that.
Yeah, I could go both ways, right? One thing I know for sure is I'm tired of hearing the phrase internal discussions, right? Like what the fuck does that even mean? You're at the urinal together and you're like, Bregman still hasn't signed anywhere, fucking dumbass. And they're like, that was our internal discussion about Bregman today. We laughed at him in the men's room. Like, what the fuck is an internal discussion, Scott?
I don't know. I was going to report Nick Pivetta was the second to last qualifying offer free agent, off the board now, gone to the Padres for 4 years, $55 million. So that's apparently the cost of. Is Nick Pivetta average?
I don't have his baseball reference in front of me, but
his career ERA is about 4.5. Is that his career winning percentage, if that means anything, somewhere around 500? Is that, I think he's got a career high 11 wins in a season. I don't know how that guy got a qualifying offer, but okay, whatever.
I think the team knew they weren't going to get him back, and they wanted a draft pick. That's how he got a qualifying offer.
So I think he was 8-12 last year, I want to say. But, so the problem is with pitching is that if he's average, he just got, what is it, about 13, 14 million average annual value? That's pretty steep for average.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not a ton left at this point, right? Like you're going down the clearance aisle at Kroger right now, hoping to find, you know, some milk that is 3 days away from expiring, but you want that bowl of cereal now, right? Like you're looking for someone who can give you a month or two to buy you time until some of the pitchers that are injured can come back. That's what you're looking for. An insurance policy. Somebody who maybe goes to the bullpen, maybe makes 6 or 7 starts, then you cut them loose. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for a cheap reclamation project like we've done thousands of times before. Is he out there? I don't know.
They showed up to, I can't remember who it was, but somebody had a showcase, and we were one of, like, I think it was us and the Royals were the only teams to show up. So, okay, $4 or $5 million. That's what you got left to spend. So whatever you can afford. See, to me, that's why I looked at. Did you see what Hayward signed for?
It wasn't much.
$1 million, and I think 50,000 for every 50 plate appearances over 200. So he could get up
like
basically
1.3 maybe.
Yeah, so he could get up to 1.2, 1.3 million
if he was an everyday player who mashes, who plays every day.
Yeah, which is about what Gamble's getting.
I mean, at some point they had to have said, "Hey guys, do you want Ben Gamble or Jason Hayward back?" And the team decided Ben Gamble, right? Like they were both out there. They were both on the team the year before, and they went with Ben Gamble. I don't know. I liked Jason Hayward. I really did. Ben Gamble probably had better offensive numbers here, average wise, but like Hayward had some pop. He could play center in a pinch. He could play left. He could play right. Good arm. Good base runner. Championship pedigree. That's the kind of guy I would have loved to have back. But maybe he just didn't see the path to playing time here that he got elsewhere. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he's going to serve. He's with the Padres. I think they went ahead and signed a right-handed Connor Joe. I think they signed him to be a platoon partner with him. So, I mean, that seems to fit. That's going to be their left field. I would have rather had Hayward, but I guess they had those internal discussions at the urinal and you decided,
could have been the vending machine or the lunchroom. I don't know, but I doubt, I seriously doubt they're huddling every day and they're like, all right, let's talk about Bregman. What do we got? What do we think? Like, what do we think, guys? Like, no, I guarantee you, like, there's some kind of stupid, like, joke that they keep telling themselves about. I'll tell them it's internal discussions again. Like,
like, well, and I do have, sources I won't mention that, they were negotiating. So, maybe the internal discussions wasn't really all that real, but here's the key. Was Josh Hader on the radar in December or January last year? No. I think if Jim Crane wakes up tomorrow and decides, okay, I'll give Bregman his $200 million, Bregman's an Astro. I don't think that'll happen. But, it's Jim Crane's money. He gets to spend it how he wants. If he wants to blow a hole through, the competitive balance tax, then that's his decision.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I would like if he did it, right? Like you said, I always want more offense. I'm with you. You get the talent and you figure out where to put them. Like I've said this on this podcast before, the Padres have like 4 fucking shortstops. Cronenworth is a shortstop. Bogarts is a shortstop. Tatis is a shortstop. Kim is a shortstop. Like literally half their fuck. Huh?
Well, Kim's with the Rays now.
Okay, but I mean either way, right? Like, yeah, that's. And I'm sure I'm missing one of their fucking shortstops too. Machado was a shortstop when he first came up. Like either way, like you get the talent and you find where you can play. Like if Altuve can play left, great. If he doesn't, one of those guys can. Or like if we have to play Jordan in left field more often, okay. It means you have a fucking legitimate threat in your lineup more often. We'll find what we have to find playing time wise based on the bats that we have, right? But I don't know. I want to load up, even if it's just another year, right? Like fucking dude, like you've got so much money coming off the books next year with Montero's contract and Abreu's contract coming off. I don't know. Like I don't see why you don't at least up it a little bit. Like, hey, Alex, you're not getting 200. Let's look at 170. What do you
So
say?
yeah, you're clearing. What are we paying? Like $5 million of Presley's, I think.
Yeah.
So $5 million of Presley's, Montero's,
Those two together are 39, I believe.
and Abreu, and Fromber. If you're not going to bring Fromber back.
Hopefully he will be back.
Yeah, but I'm saying, because he's getting what, 19 right now?
I believe so.
So
Probably
I mean,
get
that's
closer to 28.
well, I'm just saying, you're getting close to 60 million right there. Now that to me,
And that's why they're trying to stay below the CBT this year so they can
Right.
go into next year and blow it.
that to me tells me you could bring Fromber back very easily, I think, if you choose to. But if Jim Crane is going to say no contracts longer than 6 years, Fromber may say, screw you, I'm going to go somewhere else. And we always know that there's, left-handed pitchers, there's a market for them everywhere.
There are 27 teams that would kill to have Framber Valdez, right? Like maybe even 28 teams outside of the Astros that would kill to have Framber Valdez, and the Dodgers being the only one because they just don't have room for him. But
Well, then the Marlins, because the Marlins
can't
are
afford
not
him.
in business.
Pirates can't afford him. But realistically, they'd love to have a guy like that, right? Like the Yankees would kill for a ground ball left-handed pitcher based on the way that their stadium is built. Like they would love a lefty that could just generate ground balls at that level. That's why they signed Fried.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like you've got money available next year. You might have to take a little bit of a hit this year. I don't know. Like it's again, as you and I have said, it's not our money. But if you would like a financial advisor, Jim, my advice is fucking below it all.
Well, and really, when you look at it, what does one more year get us? One more year, you figure out, okay, what does Cam Smith have?
That's what it gets you.
Is that, can Cam Smith slot into right field and be an everyday right fielder? Because that's one of the positions that he is capable of playing. Does Bryce Matthews, flow up on the scene in 1 year? And then you got these guys like Jacob Melton and guys like that, or any of them, can they be, at least a part-time outfielder? And so the more positions you can fill from within is the less you have to spend on guys like that. So, do you go out next year and say, fuck it, we're going to sign Fromber and another starting pitcher? Fuck you. We're going to beat you with arms. I mean, you can do that.
Yeah. And that's why I kind of like, I think if you went a 1-year deal or a 3-year deal with opt-outs after everyone with Bregman at this point, it might be worth it just because you've got the money coming up next year. If he stays, okay, we're fine. We kind of need a year to let this minor league system figure itself out a little bit. Like you've got this top prospect who looked fantastic in his first year, but it was 1 year and he's going to be going up a level this year. So there's just so much that has to play out. Like, did you put a plan in place in case you didn't get back Bregman? Yeah. And it's not a bad plan, but the outfield sucks. Like, let's be honest, the outfield looks ridiculous at this point. And so if you can tinker and you can bring somebody in, great. If you can go into your owner's office and say, I really want you to pony up, big boy. Come on, Jimmy. Do that. I don't know. But at the end of the day, Dana's not the one who has to say yes, right? Like if Jim Crane came into Dana Brown's office and said, call Alex Bregman and give him what he wants, Dana Brown's going to go, yes, sir, and make that fucking call, right? But Dana Brown is probably not going to go into Jim Crane's office and say, I need you to approve going over the cap by $25 million a year. That's going to have something that Jim already knows needs to happen, and he'll decide if he wants to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move on to the Houston Rockets, who unfortunately are free fallen. We're in second place now, all the way down to fifth in the West. Lost 6 in a row before pulling one out. They were playing tonight. Let me get a score update for you. Scott losing 85-82 in the third quarter to the Phoenix Suns. You and I were talking the other night, with all the star power on this team, the emergence of Amen Thompson, the way Jalen Green's been playing, Alfred Sengun's going to be an all-star. The most important piece of this Rockets team right now is Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, and I think, I toyed with the idea of making Rafael Stone either, not a scumbag, but my horse's ass for not picking up a backup point guard. In fact, this is the second year in a row he's picked up a player that cannot help them. Yeah, he's picking up Cody Zeller, hasn't played this year, is already listed as a buyout candidate. So basically, they picked him up as a way of just buying a second-round pick. Why couldn't you have picked up a backup point guard? You didn't have to blow up the roster to do that. You had plenty of fungible assets that you could have traded that are not a part of, Jeff Green, Jack Londale. Are those two guys really in the rotation?
No.
I mean,
no.
no.
And Jack Landale's not that good.
So why couldn't you have traded one of them and a second-round pick and said, here, give me your backup point guard. Let's get us through the next month while we're waiting for Fred VanVleet to get back. And you didn't even have to start him. All you needed is a guy that in the fourth quarter can sit there and say, let's settle this thing down. And because if you look at that 6-game losing streak, I would say at least half of them were games you blew in the fourth quarter.
Absolutely. One on a bad inbounds fucking pass.
Yeah.
And, I hate to belittle this point, but there is a point guard available in the second round. Well coached, good defender, good shooter, excellent ball handler, good commander of the floor. He's now the starting point guard for the Raptors and Jamal Shed, who is exactly what the fucking Rockets needed. And they traded the pick away to somebody else and let the Raptors take him with the very next pick instead of bringing in the backup point guard that this roster was desperately calling for.
And I guess they thought Reed Shepherd was a point guard. I guess. I don't know.
You want to know a crazy stat? Amen Thompson is shooting 25.9% from three this year. Reed Shepherd, 25.8.
I was surprised he's even made one. I don't know if I've ever seen him make a three in watching games.
It's not great, but for a guy that was supposed to be your shooter compared to a guy who we all know is not a good shooter, the not good shooter is slightly better this year.
Well, the problem is that you're talking about a guy who's played 1 year of college basketball. And when you're the number 2, number 3 overall pick, you usually play for a team that sucks. So they're going to throw you in. They're going to throw you in 30, 35 minutes. And then by the end of the year, you're going to figure it out. So look at what Amen Thompson did last year. I mean, he was dog shit for about the first 30 or 40 games. And then all of a sudden figured something out. And this year has taken another step. But this team, the way it was, is not a good environment for a guy to figure out how to play in the NBA. They needed somebody that already knows. And Shed could have been that guy, but they could have signed a veteran point guard at any point. They still could. Seth Curry is supposedly on the list of guys that could be bought out. Would you like a piece of Seth Curry?
Probably, at least as a backup point guard who can hit open jump shots. I mentioned his name to you a week ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't think, and at the time I didn't think much of him because it was past the trade deadline. But if he gets bought out, why the hell not?
Yeah, I mean, something that when your point guard is injured, you've got a veteran who can just calm everybody down in the fourth quarter. A legitimate ball handler who can say, give me the ball, let's run motion ISO 6 or whatever the fuck you want to call a play and get open. Because they don't have that. Fourth quarter comes, everybody wants to make a big play. Amen's trying to drive, he turns it over. Jalen Green's trying to drive, he jacks up a three. Alfred Sengun's doing stupid shit. Like, we need a veteran point guard when Fred VanVleet is unavailable. Or for the 15 minutes a game, he just needs a breather. Like, we've got nothing there. And it's not they believe too much in guys like Aaron Holiday and Jayshawn Tate, who they think like can be a point forward or that's not what you need. You needed just a veteran guy to give you 12, 13 minutes a game of good backup point guard play, maybe 4 or 5 starts a year when your starting point guard is out, right? That's what this team needed. And they vastly missed. They didn't even, they were supposed to meet with Ben Simmons. He never even came and met with us. He met with the Clippers and stayed there. So maybe that was their plan. I don't know. I didn't love that idea, but at this point, it would have been better than what we're doing. And the defense would have been good.
Did you enjoy that GIF I sent you of the guy shooting?
I did, yeah.
That's Ben Simmons, basically. A guy hitting like the top of the backboard, hitting, missing the whole thing.
If you gave Ben Simmons, the NBA 3-point contest rack of balls all the way through, and Tim Costello, the same NBA 3-point contest rack of balls all the way through, never see me play basketball, who do you think's winning that 3-point contest?
Is it timed?
Whatever the rules for the NBA 3-point contest are.
I think it's timed because
then you get like a minute or something like that.
Because the problem is then the cardiovascular kind of.
You worry about my conditioning. I'll train. I'll train for the event. In this hypothetical, I've been yogging.
Okay, I'll give the edge to you there at that point because I'm not dissing your cardiovascular. I would have the same issue.
Oh, I don't disagree with you. I'm not, but for this hypothetical, I've done no shooting, no basketball training. I've only done conditioning, right? So I won't be winded, but I'm still whatever basketball skill I have right now, having not played competitively on a team since intramurals in college. Versus Ben Simmons, I think I got a shot. At least I have a shot.
So imagine this. You remember Craig Hodges?
I do, yeah. With the big fat fucking tie and the highlighter that always matched.
Oh, remember that? No, Craig. No, not now. You're thinking Craig Sager.
No, on ESPN.
Craig Hodges. Well, when he was playing, he won the 3-point contest 3 years in a row. And the last year, he was cut by the Bulls. And so he comes out wearing this generic NBA jersey because he's not actually playing for a team. But since he's the defending 3-point champion, he has to be there. So I don't know if you remember the King of the Hill episode. Did you ever watch King of the Hill?
I did, yeah.
Did you see the one where Hank won the contest where he could throw a football and win money?
I did.
And had Don Meredith do it instead?
Mm-hmm.
So, would you cede to Craig Hodges? Or would you want, if he, you could get say a 10th of the money, or would you want to take the shot yourself and possibly win that thing?
I want to do it myself. Again, we're talking about one of the worst 3-point shooters in the NBA.
Well, I'm not talking about against Ben Simmons. Let's say you win $1,000 if you make one 3-pointer.
Okay.
Or let Craig Hodges shoot it, and you win $100 if he makes it.
Anybody guarding me?
No, yeah, unguarded. Just
I got to bet on myself, Scott. I haven't done any basketball workouts since college, but I'm betting on me.
That was one of the most embarrassing intramural experiences of my life. I'm playing with my dorm team. We're playing against basically the TCU football team. I think we lost 71-4. I had a breakaway layup that I just completely blew. And the guy's just like, man, how'd you blow that thing? The football players. I'm like, man, you guys are fast. I thought no one else was going to block my shot.
So when I was at St. Mary's, I was on par for basketball there, right? The athletes were not allowed to play intramurals. So outside of that, it's just the other the other students. And I was able to do my thing out there, right? I wasn't the best player on the court, but I gave you exactly what I gave the Clear Lake Intermediate School basketball team, which was lockdown defense, good rebounding, and I'll knock down the occasional open jumper when you need me to. Then I transferred to the University of Houston. Okay. And my first notice should have been when I just went to the open gym time to shoot around and they're playing pickup ball and nobody picked me. Never even got a chance, right? The white boy never got picked. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll join intramurals. Like I love basketball. I played basketball my whole life. I got run out of that fucking gym. I got dunked on multiple times. Dudes were like 6'6", dude. Like it was fucking crazy. So then I noticed University of Houston is doing a under 6 foot league. I'm like, okay, this is for me. This is what they finally noticed us. They're gonna have a bunch of Tim Costellos out there. And then what actually happened was I showed up to like the Muggsy Bogues family reunion, and I got chased up and down the court and got dunked on again in the under 6 foot league. And I'm like, I'm asking the ref, I'm like, I need a fucking measurement on that guy. He's at least 6'1". And yeah, man. But I had a good time. I would always put some points up in garbage time, get myself into double figures. But at the end of the day, I'm still the typical, you know, your typical white guy at court. I'm gonna play good defense. I'm gonna lock you up. I'm gonna box you out. I'm gonna get a rebound. And if you leave me open in the corner, I'm gonna knock down the three.
The only good experiences I was really good at sand volleyball back in the day, 2-on-2. You know, because the net's higher, so the fact that I can't jump doesn't hurt me. But really, the best experience I had. So when Janet went to Rice, I joined an intramural golf tournament just out of a lark.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was on a 3-man team, and so I'm, you know, and every other team's a 4-man team. And these two guys are like, they're like 25, 30 handicappers. And at this point, I'm still playing to about a 10. And so they're like, dude, you're hitting the second ball every fucking time. And so I did, and we won the thing by like 3 or 4 strokes.
We had a UH intramural golf. It was 2-man scramble, and I played with a guy who was a fellow high school golf. He played at Strake, and he was probably like a 3 or 4 handicap. I was probably playing at like a 3 or 4 at this time, and we played Herman Park.
Oh, yes. Gotcha.
And if you've never played Herman Park,
no, I have. Yeah.
It was, but for those who haven't, it was built when clubs were wooden, and you did not hit it as far. So if you could hit the ball over 280, you could rip that fucking course a new asshole. And that's exactly what Casey Rice and myself did that day. And we walked home victorious by like 5 strokes, man. We shot like 71, and the next closest score was like 77 or 78. It was not even close. Like we just absolutely gutted Herman Park.
So when my dad was learning how to play golf, he started playing cross-handed because he's left-handed, and the only clubs they had were right-handed clubs. He may or may not have hit a rhinoceros, according to Ted, because as you know, his house right next to the zoo. So, yeah. Anyways, we probably need to move on here.
We can, but man, I love reliving my intramural glory days. I played intramural ping pong at one point. Scott came second in that tournament. If they had an intramural for it, I was signing up, man.
The worst one we had was intramural sports trivia. Have you ever played this?
Ooh, I would have fucking dominated that.
No. Hold on, Tim. Not one football, basketball, or baseball question.
Hockey.
Not a one. Not a fucking one. And so, like, we get the hockey question. Who holds the record for Gretzky? And it's like, saves. Shit. And so
Mario Lemieux.
Yeah, we're getting like soccer. Pele. It's like, we all know shit. You know, I think there's like a sailing question. There was a few golf questions where it's like, okay, I could do this. I could do golf. But like, you know, PBA bowling questions, it's like, I don't know.
Pete Weber. Who do you think you are? I am. All right, let's give away some awards, Scott. Horse's ass of the week. Who do you got for us?
Okay, so horse's ass. I don't know exactly who to give this to, Tim, but I sent you this news today. So apparently the legendary legend in his own mind, Anthony Rendon, is having hip surgery and is going to be out a, quote, extended period of time. Now, how long is an extended period of time? If it's Anthony Rendon, it's been the last, about 5 years? Wasn't he on the 2019 Nationals World Series team?
Say that again.
Wasn't Rendon on the 2018?
And then he got paid by the Angels.
So it's been 5 years. So I don't know whether to give this award to Rendon for basically collecting a paycheck for doing jack shit for 5 years, or to give it to the Angels for signing Rendon for doing jack shit, in addition to signing Zach Cozart, who did jack shit, Josh Hamilton, who did jack shit, CJ Wilson, who did jack shit, Albert Pujols, who was relatively healthy, but a shell of his former self for 9 of the 10 years of the contract. And let's see, Mike Trout, once they signed him to that big contract, has been a ghost. Has been a ghost. So
Gary Matthews Jr. was a big signing for them after a good year with the Rangers. He was.
Oh yeah,
terrible.
yeah, you're right about that one.
I think
Let me
Justin
see.
Upton was not good for them once they brought him in.
No, Justin Elton was not good for them. No.
So do I want to keep going, or should we, I think correct me if I'm wrong. Would you say the only good big free agent signing they've ever made, or at least in my lifetime, would be Vlad?
I mean, unless you want to consider Ohtani.
Okay, let's take the international free agent like that out of it, right? Like you make it a splash on a current MLB free agent, because Ohtani obviously.
Who was the guy they just signed? It wasn't Zach Cozart, but it was another middle infielder kind who had a big year at the Reds.
And they signed him. Cozart who had the big year with the Reds.
Well, Cozart did, but he was with them last year and just went completely in the tank. I can't remember.
I don't know.
He used to play third base for the Diamondbacks back in the day. I can't remember his name, but anyway, yeah, Vlad was pretty good. For them. Remember Mo Vaughn?
Had some good years there.
Remember Mo Vaughn?
Did you remember Mo Vaughn?
Going in the tank for the Angels. I mean, I don't know. Is there kind of a vortex there, or are they just that stupid?
I don't know. I feel like maybe that's the mystery team that Scott Boras always talks about is the Angels, right? Like he's like, hang on, let me take this call. Hello, Art. How are you doing today? Good to hear from you. I'm just here meeting with my friend Dana. What's going on? It's like,
hey, Abraham Lincoln, what's going on? Colonel Sanders.
I've got Art Moreno on the line. Go ahead and no,
and here's my thing. I can't speak for you, but it's not fun watching the team suck year after year after year. It's more fun when I can sit there, we can beat the Rangers, and the Rangers are somewhat good. It's more fun when we can beat the Mariners, and the Mariners are somewhat good. It's not fun to beat the Angels year after year after year after year. It's just not fun anymore. Because the worst thing that happens is when you go into Anaheim and you win 2 out of 3, and you're like, son of a bitch, we should have swept their ass. And that just, and now the A's are kind of, I guess the A's are getting better. Although they don't have really a whole lot of money, but they're getting better.
I don't know. I don't know if we can truly say that, Scott.
But the thing is, it's like, we're picked third in the AL West because the Angels and the A's are just, everybody we'll just pencil them in for 4th or 5th. Who do you want 4th? Who do you want 5th? I don't know. Does it really matter? I mean, I would rather them be good, because it feels better to beat good teams.
I agree. I mean, I don't want them to be dominant, but I would like just competition throughout, right? Like iron sharpens iron. And, I think to hammer that point home, right? Like you give somebody Astros tickets and they're playing the Yankees, right? Like, oh man, Astros, Yankees. Yeah. You give them Astros tickets and they're playing the Angels. Like, okay, thank you. I'm going to have a good time of the game, but
is it
totally
April?
Different vibe.
Is Mike Trout still healthy?
Right.
No. Okay, never mind.
Am I going to see Kikuchi? I don't know.
You ever hear that joke about the guy that left his windows down, put 2 Astros Angels tickets on the dashboard, came back and there were 4 tickets on the dashboard?
No, but that's a good one. That's a good one. My horse's ass this week, Scott, is the 4-letter network ESPN. They ran a stat during a Alabama basketball game the other night that since January 4th in SEC league play, the record of the SEC teams playing is 85-85. Now, Scott, I know that's crazy, total balance, right? But if you're looking only at SEC league play and two teams are playing and one's going to get a loss and one's going to get a win, is there any other mathematical option other than for the league to be 500 against itself? I don't see a way that it could be any other way other than you take up all the games that played, half of them were wins, half of them were losses, and it's going to split that way. But they're making a big deal out of the fact of like how competitive this conference is. They're 500 against themselves. No one can break away from the pack. And it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Okay, I'm going to give you 3 of these, and you're the broadcaster, so I'm going to let you pick the biggest broadcast fail. So, category 1, Bill Worrell. The Astros seem to ground into a lot of double plays with a man on first. Okay. Number 2 was ESPN during the what would used to be the GalleryFurniture.com Bowl, the Houston Bowl. The Aggies here on 3rd down, I think they're going to run it or pass it here. Or my personal favorite in the same game, we'll just say Sam Jones. He is an English major, and his goal is to write his own autobiography.
Oh my God, that one's probably the best one. I'm gonna put in option 4 by Monty. Fly ball.
God, at least that's fiction. I mean, these things happened in real life. I mean, I love the he's going to run it or pass it here. What are you going to go quick kick? Is that out? I mean, is that
so when I was the broadcaster for the Air Hogs, I had a formula for game notes that I had, right? And it was passed on to me from my mentor, Ira Liebman. But I had the front page was just like quick one-liners that I like to have, like, for example, like Kobe Clemens, right? Like he would get hot and I'd put like the white mamba strikes again or something like that, right? Like quick little one hitters with a little bit of information. Well, then like I was Ira's intern, so that was my responsibility. Well, when I was the guy, I tasked my interns with it. And one of them, I had 2. One of them got it. No issues. Great game notes. The other one, you'd get that front page and it'd be like, Matt Dean's been playing well lately. Made several nice catches. And I'm like, can we just, what are these several nice catches that he's made? Like, what the fuck? Like, how about some stats, Malik? Can we say what he's been doing well? Or like, Air Hogs have been struggling. Offense is bad. Just like, I don't know how you want me to work this one in during the game. But yeah, like
Rafael Ramirez.
But that was a college kid who was going back to finish his senior year. This is ESPN, who can't understand that when you're only looking at the conference matchups between conference team, one's going to lose and one's going to win. And it's going to fucking be 500.
Wait, there's no ties?
But like we brought it up like 5 times in the broadcast, man. They kept like, oh.
Yeah, we used to joke about that. Like, you know, Rafael Ramirez, he hit a loud foul ball last week. Congratulations.
It's something else, man. The level of broadcasting in this country is really taking a hit, and it's sad because I know I could do better than like half these fucking guys if I just would have gotten my opportunity.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, Scott, let's what do you say we tip a cap or 2 here?
So I'm going to tip my cap actually to Saquon Barkley. Absolutely, fantastic season. Probably, I don't know if it's the best season by a running back ever. He did not play in the last game of the year, so his 2,000 yards did come in the standard 16-game format. Gained, what was it, over 500 yards in playoffs? So over 2,500 yards total on the season. But, the reason I'm tipping my cap to him is that he was recently on a podcast, and he was asked about his experience with the Giants, and he only had good things to say. He had great things to say about the Maras. He said, like, they could have franchise tagged me the second time, but, them not doing it shows you what kind of class that organization has. And, I don't have anything bad to say about him. And this is a guy that could have absolutely torched them because, you can look at what he did last year and you can say, if he had half that talent in New York, what would he have done?
Yeah.
And he could have sat there and said, like, fuck you guys. You cost me possibly a ticket to the Hall of Fame. But instead, he just, he water under the bridge, said good things about him, which, to me shows a lot of maturity and, somebody that can hold in the truth a lot better than you and I seem to have been able to do these days. We're not holding a lot in these days, you and I.
That is certainly true. And another, to add on to that thought too, he's invited on Jimmy Fallon this week. And who does he bring with him? His whole fucking offensive line, right? Because any good running back who has a great year knows I'm not there without these guys blocking in front of me. So yeah, great call. On the hat tip there, Scott. I agree. I'm gonna give mine to the halftime performance from Kendrick Lamar. I gotta be honest with you, I didn't watch it live. I don't know any Kendrick Lamar songs. But just the fact that you could piss off that many fucking people with a halftime performance that he did, to take the shots at people that he did, uh, to talk shit about Trump with Trump in attendance, to like literally like get the whole crowd chanting against the guy that you're in a fucking rap battle with. Like, I'm sorry, that's fantastic. Like at the end of the day, this is entertainment, right? Like we are watching this to be entertained. And if you can't enjoy watching some dude use the halftime show for some petty ass fucking rap battle bullshit, what are you doing with life? Like that, I don't even know truly what the battle's about, but the fact that he took that shit to the halftime Super Bowl as the ultimate fuck you, tip of the cap, man. Like as a fellow petty motherfucker myself, like I gotta love it. That's up there with like Michael Jordan inviting the guy who got the last spot in the freshman basketball team to a Hall of Fame introduction. Like, fucking use your platform, man.
The one thing I loved, just as an aside, I don't know if you caught this, but there was a audio from when Trump walked on the field, and I don't know if you heard the audio.
I'm sure he
On the
got
audio.
booed to shit.
Oh, not only that, this guy was going, "Fuck you, you fucking traitor! You're a fucking traitor!" And I love that moment. But the one thing I loved about Kendrick Lamar's performance is I'm not a huge Kendrick Lamar fan because I'm not a huge fan of hip hop. I'm just not. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to make those petty comments like we got from I don't know if you've ever heard this nickname, Handy Oakley.
I was gonna say Oakley's where.
Yeah, Lauren Boebert. Was I the only one who needed subtitles? And
Probably.
it's like you're just oh. But yeah, I it took some pretty big brass balls to take it to the number of people he took it to.
At the fucking Super Bowl
Yeah.
halftime, right? Like that's the best part. Like you've got this history of iconic performances where like Michael Jackson's just standing there staring. You had every LA rap legend ever, doing their thing. And this guy's like, this is the perfect time to flip my middle finger at people. And I couldn't love it more. I love it. I love, like I'm a big Larry David fan, right? And one of the threads of one of the season is he kind of gets into it with the owner of a coffee store. So he decides to open a spite store right next door just to put that guy's coffee shop out of business. But then a bunch of celebrities like realize what he's doing. And then they start opening spite stores all out of town to put other businesses that they didn't like out of business. And the next thing you know, all that's left is the spite stores. And like no one knows how to do anything because they're just like a spite watch store. And they're like, oh, I can't fit your watch. I just want to put the guy next door out of business because he's shorted me on a trade in.
Well, and one of the things I love about the Super Bowls, you see people together who you're like, no way. I don't know. Did you see the shot of Kevin Costner sitting next to Pete Davidson?
Yes, and I tell my wife, I'm like, it has to be that like they got sat together and a Costner knows the guy on this side. And like I literally am explaining in my mind why the fuck Kevin Costner and Pete Davidson are sitting next to each other.
But only an event like that, right? Because you saw I'm sure you saw Paul McCartney. They showed a shot of him as well. So I mean, the Super Bowl is a wild event, to be sure.
It is. One last award to give away, Scott. Who is your scumbag of the week?
All right, so we gave away an award for this last week. Tim honored this group of people, but MLB media, y'all suck. So I'm getting this, I'm in a chat group with the rest of the writers of the Crawfish Boxes, and so I get this. Somebody drops a tweet. Alex Bregman is in an agreement on a contract with the Detroit Tigers. That was 3 days ago, Tim. So, where the hell did that agreement, now you were throwing out, that the Angels might be the mystery team and there might actually be legs to that. Who knows? But I'm at the point now where it's like, I'll talk about Alex Bregman as the player. I'll talk about, what he would mean to the Astros. We've done that. And talked about, would I sign him? Sure, wouldn't do that. But I'm not about to speculate where he's going. Nobody knows. And, we know from Scott Boras is that he's willing for this to last into April or May. We've seen this happen before. Saw it happen last offseason. Jordan Montgomery didn't sign until the beginning of the season, right?
I think it was like end of spring training, but yeah, it was not.
Blake Snell. Yeah, Blake Snell was around the same time. Well, to the point where they could not start the season because they had to ramp up.
JD Martinez, another one.
Yeah. If you go back, you mentioned Dallas Keuchel, another one years back when he could have made a lot of money. And the Astros offered him a huge payday after 2017, and he turned it down. So, I mentioned Scott Boras, but, we're playing into this thing by continuing to go like, well, I hear 3 teams are involved. I hear 4 teams are involved. I here's the Blue Jays. I here's the Tigers. I here's the Cubs. Hey, maybe the Reds. Who knows? Maybe the Dodgers will sign them, even though they've got, every other fucking player under the sun. I'm sure you saw Clayton Kershaw signed with the Dodgers just this week. I mean, I don't know. Can you run out an 8-man rotation? I don't know, but
Speaking of your distrust of media, this one I trust. Chandler Rome has it. Bregman and the Red Sox 3 years, $120 million.
Oh, let me see that. I actually have a Discord, so yeah, they just wow.
$40 million a year. Fuck that.
No, that's way too rich. And you know what? We talked about it. You got $50 or $60 million coming off the books if you count Framber's salary next year. So,
and they're paying him that to play second, most likely.
Yeah. I don't, well, that's
or and DH Devers.
Well, Devers, they may move to first, and then they may trade Tristan Cassis. That's, another thing I've heard, maybe they were talking with the Mariners earlier in the offseason. So maybe that deal happens, which, Cassis on the Mariners would be that would help the Mariners.
Yeah.
Considering since they have a black hole at first.
Bye, Alex Bregman.
But, yeah.
All right. Does that change your scumbag at all, Scott? Is it now Alex Bregman?
No, I'm still going MLB media because we didn't need to hear, Bregman watch for damn near 3 months.
He did the same thing with Correa. That I understand that the nature of the business is to get clicks, but is it really to get your fan base's hope up and then really come to find out the Astros never made a second offer to Correa? We'll come to find out the Astros never re-engaged with Bregman, right? The real story will come out and you'll realize all these guys were liars and most likely plants from Scott Boras. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
All right, who you got, Tim?
I am going to go after one of the teams here in the local DFW marketplace, and maybe not for the reason you think, the Dallas Mavericks. Now, we all know they made a terrible trade, right? Everybody knows it. The way that they've handled it since then is downright Trumpian. There is a fan who got on the dance cam the other day who mouthed the words, "Fire Nico." What do? They immediately kicked that fan out. Didn't say any curse words, didn't do anything, just mouthed, fire Nico. This, people love to talk about fucking free speech all the time. If I'm a fan and I paid my money to go to a game and that's what I want to say on the fucking camera, you can switch off camera, that's fine. But to kick me out, I'd be making the biggest fucking stink out of that you could ever imagine.
Yeah, and I have to wonder, at some point, this is a move so big that the explanations that they gave just don't stand up to reasoning. And so why not just tell the truth? Because what I think the truth is they didn't want to pay him $300 million. That's what I think the truth is. But instead, you're going to come out, well, he doesn't play good defense. Well, his conditioning sucks. Well, yeah, look at Jokic. Does that guy look like a physical specimen?
No, that looks like the guy that the Russian mob would send to collect when you don't pay your fucking gambling on time.
But, Jokic is the best center we've probably seen in the NBA since at least Shaq.
I was going to say Hakeem.
Well,
he's more skilled than Shaq.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying Shaq at least,
right?
If not going back to Dream. Obviously, Dream is the most skilled center in history. But why are you trading a guy who's been all NBA 5 times? That first team. So he's one of the top 5 players in the league. So if it's because of money, just come out and say it's because of money. Because I can respect that. Because I can respect, gee whiz, we want to field a competitive team, and we can't do it if we're spending this much money on this one guy. I can respect that line of reasoning. Like if the Astros came out and said, we'd love to have Alex Bregman back, we're not paying him $40 million. Are you going to get pissed off at the Astros?
No, I'm happy we did not pay that man $40 million.
Yeah.
Opt out after every year.
If Jose Altuve said, fine, I'll stay, but you're going to have to give me a 5-year, $250 million extension, would you get pissed off if the Astros said no?
I would not.
I mean, it would hurt. And as a Mavs fan, I'd be hurt. But they're going to get over that hurt a lot sooner when they know the real reasons why you did it.
Agreed. As fan bases, we want transparency, right? And say what you want about Dana Brown, but I feel like other than the internal discussions bullshit, I feel like he's been transparent with us, right? We are not going to be able to afford to keep Kyle Tucker, so we're going to trade him and get what we can for him. We are not in the Alex Bregman race, so we signed Walker to play first base. We're going to have Paredes play third. We are not wanting to go above the tax threshold because we want to be able to spend next year. That's what they said from day one, and he never did that. So, transparency, I think, as a fan, buys you trust, right? You want to trust that the people running your favorite team have the team's best interests at heart. And there's a large portion of Dallas that feels like this was done so fans give up on the team and they can move it to Vegas. That's truly a sentiment that is felt here. And when that's the sentiment that your fans think you're trying to steal the team from them, you fucking failed at every level.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is if your point was we can't afford Luka anymore, you would have shopped him. You would have gotten the best offer. There is no way in hell that was the best offer that would have been on the table. There's no way. I mean, Davis comes in, plays less than one game.
Had a great one game.
He's already injured. I mean,
but he fucking rocked us.
Yeah, he did. He's a great player when he's healthy. He's just not healthy anymore.
Yeah. All right, Scott, that's going to do it here for us on Born on the Bayou Sports. A little bit longer episode here today, but hey, it was a Super Bowl recap. What are you going to do? We appreciate everyone who joined us this week. We look forward to seeing everybody back next week on Born on the Bayou Sports. We'll see everybody next time.